the old UFC gloves, they encourage your hands to be in an open position. And these new gloves, there's a video of Gilbert Burns explaining it.
And make your fingers go down so less eye poke. I like it, see?
Eye pokes are one of the worst things about the sport.
Joe Rogan may have just cracked the code to stop one of MMA's most frustrating and dangerous problems: the dreaded eye poke. His idea, which resurfaced after another controversial no contest at UFC 321, has the MMA world talking again.
Here's my thought, and tell me what you think about this. The UFC gloves, the way they are right now, why don't they cover the fingers? Why don't you have a glove where you have the padding on the knuckle, but that you just have a layer of leather that goes over the fingers and goes behind the hand like this?
Almost like Pride gloves a little bit, but over the fingers.
But covering the fingertips.
The conversation reignited after UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi, when Tom Aspinall's heavyweight title defense against Cyril Gane ended abruptly in the first round. Just 4 minutes and 35 seconds into the fight, Gane's fingers accidentally caught both of Aspinall's eyes. The champion instantly fell back in agony, clutching his face and screaming in pain. Referee Jason Herzog immediately called for a doctor, and moments later, the fight was declared a no contest. The crowd booed, confused and disappointed, while Aspinall, his right eye bandaged and swollen, was rushed to the hospital for tests.
You went near enough to go deep, mate. I could feel how deep it went now. You already got one twice, at least once, for poking. Keep his fingers close, the ref said. And he's nearly poked me in the eye before. It feels like the back of my eyeballs hurt.
Just sting him.
It's not even stinging now, it's painful. It's like, it feels like my eye, someone's touched the back of my eyeball.
Can you see it, Google?
Not really, I can't a bit.
Can you read what it says on them doors there?
Nope. So say you've got your eye socket like that, and then the eyeball sits in it there, like that.
Yeah.
It felt like his finger hit the back of the eye socket when he pushed it in. I just couldn't see.
It will go after 2 minutes. Let's tolerate with me.
Yeah, it just puts everything into perspective. Like, where we're going here, I can't see all. It's a dangerous sport, man.
You were saying it's scarier than what you did to your leg.
It's way scarier than what I did to my knee, because you know that the knee's just going to be all right, whereas your eye, still don't know how it's going to be.
It was a devastating moment for the English heavyweight, who had just returned from a 14-month layoff to defend his undisputed title. The incident not only ended the main event in chaos, but also reignited debate about fighter safety and the ongoing problem of accidental eye pokes in MMA. The timing of it all made Rogan's old comments suddenly feel prophetic. Months earlier, in a 2024 episode of his podcast, Rogan had proposed a redesign of UFC gloves that could drastically reduce eye pokes without affecting the way fighters strike or grapple. He explained that the main issue lies in the current glove design, which keeps the fingers extended and exposes the fingertips. His fix was surprisingly simple: cover the ends of the fingers with a soft layer of leather and add a small foam bridge across the top.
The problem is the fingertips going into the eyes. Like every time you see a poke, it's like one finger going into the eyeball. But if you have it covered up, it would be different. Like it wouldn't be one poke going straight through. It'd be a layer of leather.
I'll tell you this, I've been fighting for 25 years. I've never poked anybody in the eye, not even in training.
According to Rogan, the change wouldn't interfere with grappling, clinching, or striking. Fighters would still have full range of motion, but the padding would act as a buffer to prevent serious injury. The longtime UFC commentator has been pushing this idea for years, but every new incident from Henry Cejudo's eye poke earlier this year to Aspinall's injury makes his words hit harder. Cejudo, who suffered a painful poke in his February 2025 fight against Song Yadong, called it the worst injury of his career. That fight, like many others before it, reignited calls for the UFC to take eye protection more seriously. Fans quickly dug up Rogan's old clip, and it spread like wildfire online as a "see, he told you so" moment. Rogan's practical approach to fixing the glove suddenly seemed like common sense that the sport had been ignoring for too long.
They were a little bit curved, but honestly, I mean, maybe, even if you bring it down like 10 percentages, I guess that's saving 10% of people's eyes, but
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I don't think it was like significant enough to be like, oh, no one's gonna poke me in the eyes when they're wearing these things.
Well, I think the Whitman gloves would cover that because they're much more curved.
Those ones were curved.
Yeah, I mean, your hand is in a permanent position like this.
Yeah.
So for you to do that, it's an effort.
Yeah.
Which When do you do that? You only do that when you're blocking things, or maybe when you're sliding an arm under, like to get a choke or something like that. But I don't think they're significantly bulkier.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, honestly. I don't really recall where. I think that was a while ago when they were doing all that, so I kind of don't recall super close what the curved ones, how impactful it would have been on grappling.
I think the idea of the new gloves was that there weren't as many knockouts, which also doesn't totally make sense.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
They probably ran a number that was from like all of the years of the UFC, and then maybe just when they started using the new ones instead of like just last year, how many knockouts.
I don't think they would do that.
No,
I think, but there were a lot of people complaining, said that they weren't as hard as the old gloves. Like,
I should have brought you some.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Whitman
I
gave me
them.
some of his, and I was like, these are the best gloves ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Just A, man, work it out.
I know. They're good to train in too.
Ironically, the UFC had tried to solve the problem before. In April 2024, they rolled out a new glove design intended to limit eye pokes. Fighters complained about discomfort and limited mobility, and the promotion reverted to the old gloves. Years earlier, coach Trevor Whitman had already created a glove design known as ONX. Fighters and fans praised it as a safer, smarter alternative, but the UFC never adopted it. As a result, the sport had continued with gloves that many say are outdated and unsafe.
Trevor's a unique guy. He makes the best MMA gloves that have ever been made. They're so much better.
They're way better. Yeah, the foam in them's really good.
The shape is better. The protection of your hands is better. UFC should have bought them out a long time ago. I think he wanted some crazy amount of money or something. Unfortunate. They should have just made some sort of a deal.
Now, after UFC 321, the consequences are being felt again. For the first time in history, a UFC title fight ended in a no contest due to an eye poke. Aspinall, still dealing with blurred vision and pain in his right eye, was sent for further testing back in the UK. In a YouTube video he released afterward, the heavyweight champion admitted he wouldn't continue fighting if doctors confirmed any permanent damage. He referenced fellow Brit Michael Bisping's struggles, recalling how Bisping fought for years while legally blind in one eye after a brutal head kick from Vitor Belfort in 2013. Aspinall made it clear he had no intention of doing the same. For him, risking long-term blindness wasn't worth it, even if it meant walking away from the sport at his peak. His frustration was shared by many in the MMA community, including Bisping himself, who was at the Etihad Arena that night.
Mike Bisping, he lost his eye. It's just a horrendous thing to think as a parent, really. And I know what it's like these days with people saying what they want, but if it's just your son and they could lose an eye and their health and they've got children to look after, something needs doing about it.
Bisping, now a UFC analyst, described the situation as a complete disaster. He said the sport's current hand positioning rules were ridiculous, pointing out that fighters should simply keep their fists closed rather than extending their fingers toward an opponent's face. In his view, the solution was simple. Make a fist, throw punches, and stop keeping fingers spread in defensive positions. His comments added fuel to the ongoing and growing call for reform.
They've got to do something about these eye pokes. The rule is you got to have your hands like this, but you can still have your fingers out straight. You can't do that, you can do that. That's the stupidest rule I've ever seen in my life. Make a fist. Simple as that. You're throwing punches, and yeah, you got to parry shots, but you just got to unbend your fingers. It's really not that hard. This is a stupid rule.
Meanwhile, another vocal figure, Paddy Pimblett, couldn't hide his disappointment after watching his fellow Brit's title fight collapse in such fashion. Calling it one of the biggest disappointments in UFC pay-per-view history, Pimblett sympathized with both fighters. He emphasized that while Gunn clearly didn't mean to cause the injury, the UFC had to act fast to prevent this from happening again. His plea echoed Rogan's, "Fix the gloves." Fighters shouldn't have to lose titles or suffer permanent damage because of poor equipment design.
And then 15 seconds left in the round, gets poked in the eye, and he can't see. So I don't know really what Tom's meant to do there. If he can't see, he can't be fighting, can he? Like, I know Bisping fought with one eye, but that was because he had to. Tom doesn't have to fight with one eye. So hopefully they just get that fight booked again, because that was shaping up to be Tom's toughest test he's ever had in the UFC. So hopefully that fight gets rebooked sooner rather than later. They're heavyweight. It's not like they need to do a big weight cut to get down to fight weight. As long as Tom's eye's okay, get that fight back on early next year. If they're ready to go by the end of this year, get it on the December pay-per-view. Just as soon as you can get that fight going again, get it going.
Even former flyweight king Demetrius Johnson chimed in, though his perspective was more philosophical. Johnson argued that eye pokes are nearly impossible to eliminate completely because open hand movement is a natural human reaction. While he sympathized with Aspinall, Johnson believed that accidents like Gane's poke were bound to happen in a sport that combines so many martial arts disciplines.
Oh, keeps eye poking, man. Once again, it's MMA. If somebody's coming at me and I go like this, it's my hands coming out. It's a natural reaction. It's a natural reaction. That's one thing people don't understand. Like, it looks like the other eye got more penetration than the one he's closing right now. What the fuck? That sucks ass. He was fighting a wonderful fight. Right there, we can see that, like, that's how you can get Tom Aspinall troubles, is by always turning the angle on him, never give him the opportunity to run you over. Obviously, the accident foul was an accident, right? But the way he had his hands on Tom Aspinall's face is the correct technique to do. If you go back and watch John Jones, he's a great eye poker, but if you go back and watch the greats who do body kick, if you go back and watch my fights, when I throw body kicks or I throw leg kicks, my hands are here, they're open. So once again, you're never going to fix eye pokes in mixed martial arts.
Gane, visibly upset, immediately apologized to Aspinall in the octagon. The Frenchman looked crushed that such an anticipated fight had ended in chaos. For his part, Aspinall was furious at the fans who booed him for not continuing. He shouted that he had been poked knuckle deep in both eyes and couldn't even open one of them properly.
I think we started very well. I think he started very well, but I think I started very well because everybody knows his strategy every time he started really hard and surprise his opponent. I think we did very well. We defending a takedown. I touched him. We saw some blood on his nose. It was a really great first round, and that's why, yeah, maybe also I was a little bit disappointed, a little bit sad about this issue, but this is a sport. I was at first angry because I don't want him. I don't want from him to stop the fight. After I was disappointed, sad, and after that,
apologetic
exactly for the people.
So, Cyril, how did you feel about the eye poke? How do you feel when your hands and your fingers touching his face? Did you feel something specific? Cyril responded, no, I didn't feel anything specific. I didn't do it on purpose. And I know what it is to have an eye poke because when I fought Derek Lewis, I got an eye poke and I was seeing two Derek Lewis for a full round. So I know how it is. And
one round during that is what the debut of the run, and the rest of the run I saw the two Derek Lewis. So I'm not gonna say yeah, he's a liar.
Dr. Brian Stutterer, a sports physician known for analyzing injuries on YouTube, slammed claims that Aspinall had exaggerated the damage. He said that any fighter who loses vision, even temporarily, must be stopped for safety reasons. Continuing in that condition could easily lead to permanent blindness, and he called out fans suggesting that Aspinall had quit, labeling those takes as pure nonsense.
In this case, for certainly Aspinall's right eye, it seems like his eyelid was closed. His left eye, it seems like that fingernail of Cyril Gane does get underneath his eyelid. But what we also have to remember is it's not just about the contact to the eyeball itself, but also the direct pressure that is being applied onto the eye and what that can do in terms of pain and real trauma, damage, potentially vision threatening to the eyeball. So, number one thing that we're going to care about with an eye poke that's going to cause the majority of that immediate reaction is going to be something called a corneal abrasion. Looking at our biodigital anatomy tool here in a cross-section of the eye, looking straight on, the cornea is going to be the thin, sort of superficial layer of cells that are the first thing that your finger is going to come into contact with whenever you poke somebody in the eye. Whenever that cornea is injured, we call it a corneal abrasion, and you actually are tearing, damaging the cells that make up that cornea. Of course, if you have dirt on your finger, the fingernail, anything that's not like a perfectly smooth surface with any bit of little dirt or dust can cause a tear in that actual tissue making up that cornea. And what that's going to do is not cause necessarily vision-threatening damage, but it will cause your eye to tear up. It will cause this reflexive reaction where it is extremely hard to keep your eyes open because your body wants to protect your eye. And when it senses trauma, when there's damage to the eye, it's going to reflexively want to tear up to protect things. It's going to want to stay closed. And so is it that he physically couldn't? To a degree, yes. Sometimes those reflexes just cannot be overcome and you cannot.
However, not everyone was so understanding. Chael Sonnen said that fighting with one eye is not uncommon. He acknowledged that eye pokes are illegal, but added that many champions have battled through similar situations. In his mind, Aspinall, as the heavyweight champion of the world, should have tried to keep going. His comments stirred controversy, with many accusing Sonnen of being insensitive to the severity of the injury.
Anthony? No, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed. I talked all day yesterday. Like, I just want to see Tom have to overcome some adversity. I want to see what he does when when his first plan of action doesn't work. What's he checked down to? Is he gonna wrestle? Can he compete with Cyril Gane on his feet for 25 minutes? And I don't get any of those answers, and just like everybody at home, I'm disappointed.
Being poked in the eye is illegal, Brendan, but to fight with one eye is very common. The opponent's trying to hit your eyes, trying to bust up and make your nose bleed. So that part of it does have question for guys like Anthony and I. We're trying to be polite, we're trying to show grace, but in all fairness, if you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you got to fight with one eye at times.
Despite all the differing opinions, one thing has become clear. Eye pokes remain one of MMA's most persistent and dangerous problems. Fighters risk their vision every time they step into the cage, from Bilal Muhammad's gruesome injury against Leon Edwards to Travis Brown's infamous poke on Fabricio Werdum years ago. Sports history is filled with moments where one stray finger changed everything. As always, Dana White was asked about the issue at the post-fight press conference. His response frustrated fans even more. He downplayed the incident, saying eye pokes are simply part of the game and will happen no matter what gloves the UFC uses. He even suggested that Aspinall might have not wanted to continue, a comment that drew immediate backlash. Critics accused him of lacking empathy and failing to take responsibility for fighters' safety.
It's a bit of a weird question, right? It was ruled a no contest because of an unintentional eye poke. What does it take to make an eye poke intentional, and is there even a way you could ever prove that?
Who the knows? Who gives a shit? What are you gonna do?
For now, Aspinall awaits results from further medical tests. Early examinations showed no visible trauma, but he still experienced burning pain and blurry vision. If doctors find permanent damage, he's prepared to step away from the sport entirely. It's a heartbreaking possibility for a fighter who had been on the verge of cementing his place as one of the best heavyweights in the world. The controversy has once again pushed Joe Rogan's glove idea back into the spotlight. Rogan's proposal, covering the fingertips and adding a soft ridge, isn't revolutionary from a design standpoint, but it could save fighters' careers and prevent devastating injuries.
This is just to stick the retina, okay? Yeah.
The best part about fouling, right, is that it works. So the best thing you can do is like keep your head in the game, and I'll do everything I can to manage.
All that training for that. Don't worry about it.
It's gonna be okay, mate.
What the f are you doing? The left one was really deep. The left one was really deep. Yeah, sorry, got one twice before it. Yeah, twice before he got one for it.
Mike Bisping, he lost his eye. It's just a horrendous thing to think as a parent, really. And I know what it's like these days with people saying what they want, but if it's just your son, and they could lose an eye, and their health, and they've got children to look after, you know, something needs doing about it. Yeah, it's horrendous.
How is he not disqualified at that?
It's outrageous. He already got one twice, at least once for poking.
Twice before he got one for it.
Keep his fingers close, the ref said. Nearly put me in the eye before. People start booing me like it's my fault.
Why are you booing?
I think double poked in the eye, mate. Trained for 14 months. Didn't want someone's finger knuckle deep in my eye.
What's it going to take to change something? It's not a hard job, sure. Something needs doing about it.
That's outrageous, that.
The sad truth is that it shouldn't take another high-profile injury for change to happen. The sport has evolved in countless ways over the years: better weight cut rules, concussion protocols, and drug testing. Yet something as simple as glove design remains outdated. Whether or not the UFC decides to take Rogan's advice this time remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: The conversation around fighter safety is louder than ever, with stars like Bisping, Pimblett, Johnson, and Cejudo all weighing in, and fans demanding reform after UFC 321. The promotion can no longer afford to ignore it. In the end, Rogan's idea might be the simplest and smartest way forward. A small change that could protect fighters from one of the sport's most dangerous hazards. For a sport built in precision and control, preventing accidental injuries like eye pokes isn't just about safety, it's about fairness. And if Rogan's voice keeps echoing loud enough, maybe the UFC will eventually take a hard look at its gloves and make the change everyone's been asking for.